The Matrix. Boy, what a movie. If you're here watching this video, you've either seen The Matrix or you're curious enough to click this video and find out a little bit more about it and why I'm talking about it. This movie is perhaps one of the most impactful, most important movies that you could possibly watch in the time period we are living in now. It is not the most important. There are always a lot of important things happening around the world to get yourself involved in. However, in terms of technology and the place we are headed to in the future, at least what seems to be the direction we're headed in, this movie has a lot of philosophical value to you as a human being. Now, some people don't like action movies. That's okay. You don't have to watch this movie to get that philosophical idea behind it, which I'll hopefully address in this video. However, if you do have the patience to watch something that was created in the 90s and is very fun, even though the special effects are somewhat dated, you will get a lot of value out of this movie. So what is it about The Matrix that makes it so special? This is kind of a crazy story I have. The first time I encountered The Matrix, I was about 3 or 4 years old. I was in a TV store with my dad, and I, was very young. I didn't have contextual awareness of the world or life or existence or had thought deeply about anything. I was 3. And we were in a store, and I remember going to this area of the store where they had the TVs playing, and they had different movies playing. It was at like theater systems, and they'd be, you'd be watching like a movie, and they would be demoing how great their home theater system setup was. And on this one TV, they were playing The Matrix. Now, I didn't know what The Matrix was. I didn't know that this movie existed. As far as my 3-year-old brain knew about the world, all that existed was Legos and stuffed animals. And the occasional Disney movie. So I saw on the television one of the most horrific things a 3-year-old can probably experience. There's a scene in The Matrix where Neo is getting ejected out of the Matrix into reality. Essentially, I'm not going to be showing this on screen here. I don't want to spoil it for you. But he gets forcibly ripped out of the machine in the most violent and uncomfortable manner that you could probably imagine. And for my 3-year-old brain, I could not comprehend what I was watching. Now, if you've seen this scene, you probably know what I'm talking about. Neo goes into the orange pod. He wakes up. There's all this like crazy, weird experiences. Then he gets flushed down this tube and he falls into this water, and this big giant claw comes and picks him out. This was perfect nightmare fuel for a 3-year-old. Let me tell you, I did not sleep for weeks because I did not understand what in the world I had just watched on this television. All I knew was Cinderella and the Fox and the Hound. I did not know anything about this world that existed with machines and the Matrix and living in a weird reality that it exists and doesn't exist. And this ejection, these machines, this artificial intelligence, this whole thing created this new fear inside of me that I didn't understand for a long time. And for years, I had never known what movie that was. I would explain it to people, but people didn't understand what I was talking about. Like, I don't know. I've never seen that movie before. I don't know what you're talking about. And I would try to articulate what I saw, but it took probably 15 years before I finally stumbled across this movie, The Matrix. And as I was watching it, most likely as an 18-year-old, I got to that scene in the movie and I had that epiphany moment. Oh my God, this is the movie that gave me nightmares for years. The Matrix. Now, that really long-winded story is just about an introduction about how I got there. But what value does this movie actually bring to people? There is a scene in this movie where the lead character, Neo, has a choice to make. He can discover the truth, or he can choose to live in the reality he's always known. He ends up facing this critical choice, and he chooses. And that ends up being one of the pivotal plot points of the movie as to what happens next. And this movie is so relevant to our time because in this day and age we live in, we are living with machines and computers. We are being processed by algorithms, data. Everything you do on the internet, everything you have said, everything you have experienced is all data. It's data being fed into data centers, machines, being processed by algorithms. You are effectively a piece of data to companies. Now, in this framing, I am basically making companies sound like these horrible entities. That is probably not a complete picture of what companies are. Companies provide a lot of value to the world. Corporations provide a lot of value to the world. They provide a lot of value to people. And without them, we wouldn't have much of the critical infrastructure we have today. But there is a two-edged sword to these data centers, these corporations, these artificial intelligences, these algorithms that process us as data. There's a dark side. And as we live on the internet, we find ourselves engaged more and more and more with whatever is going on the internet. Our attention is captured. We are here on this machine, constantly going through all of these situations, these experiences. All of this information is hitting us continually. Our senses, our stimuli is constantly stimulated by this matrix of information. And we can become so hooked up to the internet. We can become so ingrained and focused on everything that is going on in this space that we begin to forget the reality that is around us. We begin to forget that there is more to life than just this machine that we are a part of. Perhaps that's less time spent with family, less time spent with your dog, less time spent out in nature enjoying peace, less time engaging with people face to face, less time spent doing hobbies that are away from screens. There is so much value to the internet, so much value to these systems we have created that provide us with information at our fingertips. In the 90s, it was not possible to Google something. I mean, Google might have existed back then. I don't know if when it started, but it wasn't common. And especially in the 80s, we didn't have access to the internet in the way we do now. You couldn't just Google an answer to a question or ask an artificial intelligence, how do I do this thing? You had to go to the library, try to find a book that might be related to what you were looking for. Maybe ask the librarian. And then through that book, you would have to filter through the table of contents, and try to find a paragraph or a sentence that maybe had some relation to this experience you were experiencing or this answer you were looking for. There was a lot more effort required to get answers to questions you had. And so many of the times, we would talk to each other, our friends, our family, about ideas and questions we had to try to get them to help us come to an answer that would be satisfying to us. We had to use people as sounding boards to bounce ideas off. And a lot of times, we would arrive at conclusions that were not factually correct. We would arrive at information that was not true or maybe somewhat distorted, especially by bias or our own thinking patterns. There was this lack of information, this lack of the information fire hose that we now have today. The world was a very different place 30 years ago. It has changed so much, so quickly, in such a short period of time. And no one's talking about it. It feels like no one's talking about it. How is it affecting us? For some people, it feels like time is speeding up. It's going faster and faster and faster. And this is a known phenomenon. As you get older, time does speed up because you have more experience to relate to in your past. One day as a 4-year-old can feel like an eternity. One day as a middle-aged adult can feel like a snap of a finger. But it's not just adults that are experiencing this speeding up of time. It's children who are experiencing it too. They feel like summers are just quickly melting away. Like even as they go through school, things are happening so fast. It's like someone turned on hyperdrive mode, and we've been stuck in that state since. We haven't been slowing down. The Matrix teaches us a really important lesson. That there's more to life than just a machine. And we can choose to believe that the only part of life is the machine if we decide to make that choice. If you haven't seen this movie, I encourage you to watch it. It is so important to our time period. It was ahead of its time when it came out. It's still relevant today. And even though it's aged in some ways, it might really make you think about the world, where we are now, and where we're headed. And hopefully, with that knowledge, you can make choices that benefit you and the people around you more. Thank you for listening.